actually never really played Roaches versus Terran because I feel it's more fun having small little runbys, and the time when I played StarCraft the most was, I think, in Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah.
And I think the most prevalent meta back then was Ling Bane Muta. Really what I've stuck with, and it's really not working at all for me. Like, really not. I've been kind of slacking for the last few weeks, but last time I played relatively active. Managed to get up to Master 2, which is a bit misleading because that's not where I am right now. Yeah, and I've mostly lost against Terran. It was my win rates were, when I was playing ambitiously, ZvZ was by far my best matchup. I had probably constantly over 70%, which is really good.
Hells yeah.
Protoss, against Protoss, it was kind of balanced, but never under 50%. And Terran was never above 34%.
All right.
Yeah. You might think after playing this game for 10 years, I would have accumulated enough game sense to be able to play somewhat decent in every matchup, but no, it's really not the case.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing, right? Because it's like, well, technically you were getting better with Terran the whole time as you were moving up the ladder, right? You had to be for your win rate to be staying at 35% because you're playing better players. It's just, it's funny how there's that inclination to press your advantages, right? Like a lot of people will like be like, well, I'm good at the Zerg versus Zerg, and I'm good at versus Protoss, so I'm gonna kind of just keep putting more mental energy into that because you have more of an idea of what you need to do better, right? Whereas against Terran, you've always just probably been a little bit like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to even do, and then it lags so far behind. It's tough to work on, but that's cool. Yeah. So hopefully we can turn that around today.
The thing I struggled the most with was Terrans or good Terrans are pretty much in your face the whole game. Small run-bys with the Hellions, and I've never really caught any room to breathe, so I oftentimes misjudged when to drone or when to build army units. I've never been a player to have a set build or a timing attack or a timing push. Oftentimes I just misjudged the situation, droned when I wasn't supposed to drone, could barely defend, was behind as well as an army, as in eco as well. So
yeah, which is very common. If you don't build any structure early on and you're trying to play standard, it can go really bad, right? Because there's so many little details, and Zerg vs Terran's a very momentum-based matchup. If you end up a little bit behind in workers early, and then you don't have Spork rulers, say, going down at the set time each game, and then you're like, hey, I'm doing okay this game, and then suddenly a Liberator's in your main, it kills 15 workers while you're distracted by some Hellions, and everything suddenly is very bad for you.
I think pretty fun being or always having to be on your on top of everything, because it puts stress on the Terran as well. He has to do all these kinds of stuff. To me, it always felt like I'm slipping just a little bit. It snowballs. I get behind. I get a little bit further behind, and I pretty much lose every single game. I would love to take on your Roach build, which you sent to me.
Cool.
I've actually just managed to get in a little bit of practice, but pretty good with memorizing build orders, so that should be fine. not polished or perfect, but down.
No worries. Awesome. Yeah, so we can get into that. By the way, so your mic is going in and out just a little bit. Have you got it on push to talk, or is it voice activated?
I think I've got it on voice active and not push to talk.
It's mostly fine. Like, I'm catching 98% of what you're saying. It's just might be worth you using.
It's frustrating to talk to me.
No,
it's not really good. because
yeah.
your sound is absolutely perfect. I think I just have a shitty mic. I think.
No worries. Maybe just try to make sure you're at the same distance to it or something. Because
Or I
if you
can
move
just
away
shout
from
the whole time. Maybe that's gonna work.
it, you could just shout the whole time. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I would just,
It's not a big issue anyway. I'll let you know if it gets worse, and then we can fix it. But for now, it's all good, my man. Awesome. So,
Great.
guys in chat, if anyone is a Masters 2 or Masters 3 Terran, anyone roughly around there, even if you just even Diamond 2 or Diamond 1, because we need just anyone who's a test dummy to start out with. So, if anyone there is happy to hop on and play a game, even if it's an off race, that would be great. Please hop in a chat channel, Pig or Piggy on the EU server, guys. Sorry, just 1 second. I'll be right back.
realize that I'm still or I'm
Just
already
had
live.
Take my headphones off to get my glasses cloth, as they're very dusty. Back. Got my headphones on now. Sweet.
So basically, we've got 2 sessions, right?
Yep.
What I would like to do today is trying the Roach build, and gonna guide me along, I guess, because I have to play with it the next 1 or 2 weeks to know what I'm supposed to do in certain situations. And I would also like sessions for you just to show me what I'm doing wrong in standard. Like
In the standard games,
Hydra.
yeah. Yep. Okay, cool. Do you want to try and cover that today and then review both of those in the future session, or do you want to do just learn the new build today, and then in the future session we can look over kind of what you're doing wrong in standard?
If we have the time, I would love to do both today, but I'm not sure. It's just an hour, so
we'll see what we can get done. Yeah, kind of just depends.
Let's start with the Roach build, and if we have the time, we can just play one fun match of standard ZvT, and yeah, you can know, or you will see what I'm on about with my incompetence.
Incompetence? A StarCraft player? Yep, that sounds like all of us.
Do we have, or do I have an opponent?
Not just yet, but that's alright, because build order doesn't need an opponent just yet. So, always fine to just practice first time against no one and just get the build down. So basically what we're going to be doing is hatch gas pool not getting Zergling speed. We're going to make 6 roaches.
I wrote on a cheat sheet right next to me, so.
Oh, awesome. What did you write it on?
Just a piece of paper?
Just a piece of paper? Okay, cool. Awesome. Great.
Put funny notes beside it as well, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, there should be lots of notes that get added over time, as we always want to do. Let me just get that there. Okay, sorry, I was just turning my fan on so I don't melt later today. I don't think we've had anyone shout out who said they could help us just yet. Helix or someone who's a Masters player. Sure, none of you guys have at least high diamond off race Terran. Please let us know. And if you guys could also keep shouting out in chat as more people tune in and try to find someone. For now, let's just hop in and do the build. So versus no opponent's always good because it kind of teaches us the trunk of the build, right? Which we almost never get to do in an actual ladder game. We almost always, of course, are going to be adapting to certain things. There's going to be different branches and reactions, like you said. So when we start, just click continue game. Don't click victory. And just play out that build.
Right, for me it's the usual drill. I set up my base hotkeys for my first 3 or 4 bases. I actually don't really know this map as well, so...
No worries.
I'm just going to play the build as best as I can, and you can just, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to just like write the build out, because I haven't actually written this one up anyway, so this is awesome. Should be good.
Every semi-professional StarCraft wannabe StarCraft player, I spam like shit at every start of the game, and as soon as something is on, my APM drops to, I don't know.
I think we're gonna bring up that average, man. No, that's all good. I think it's actually nice to warm up your hands anyway. It's actually good just to get used to that. It's better to have to try and tell ourselves to slow down sometimes in certain situations and be more methodical. It's easier to do that than it is to try and just say, oh, just play faster, to someone who's never gotten used to clicking fast and doing things quickly, because for them that's just so unnatural. So it's easier to slow down than it is to speed up on command, so not a bad habit.
One small question. In the replay you sent me, you actually put 3 drones on gas immediately and rallied. Is a very small detail, but rallied the
extra
third
drone
egg, the extra drone to the minerals, right?
Yeah. That's
was
something
that by accident or just?
That's on purpose. That's just because normally I'm very keen to get Zergling speed done straight away. It's not really for this build specifically, it's just a habit. Like against Protoss, I like to be able to surround the Adept. If their Adept stays a little bit too long, I want my Ling speed to be finished straight away. Like if they go 2 Adepts, I want to have Ling speed done immediately to try and surround them. Against Terran, I want to be able to get rid of the Reaper before the Hellions arrive. So if that Reaper overstays its welcome, I can surround it. It's just, it makes sure you can start Ling speed a few seconds earlier. It's not a big deal.
Actually fucked up the building because I was listening to you. I built two extra drones which I didn't need.
Don't worry about it. The build's still good, so you need to build another Overlord.
2 Overlords, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've already got 1 extra, so 2 Overlords is good because it'll give you extra free supply, but even just 1 probably would have been enough. But that's good. So you want to obviously try to, you know, get rid of that. So you want to build Roaches in your main first, then your natural as your Roach Horn finishes, because they'll take longer to walk down. So a good habit there is to manually build them from the main first.
Actually was waiting for 450 minerals and then build 6 roaches at the same time. Is that beneficial, or do I just immediately build roaches? Because this way they will pop at the exact same time. Which
you should always build the ones in the main first. You can wait for maybe a little bit less minerals and gas, build them in the main first, and then build from your natural so they all line up. Because otherwise you've got your roaches split apart a little bit anyway. Anyways, yeah. So you've got to go straight for lair. Yeah, layer and second gas. And we don't want to get the extra gases until quite a lot later. And you do want to drop a creep tumor on your natural with that queen.
Oh, actually, I thought that was...
Yeah, because you're not going to have the money to keep droning non-stop. So we just want to keep droning as much as we can, building overlords, of course. And then microing our roaches on the front. And I would say it's up to you if you want to make a ravager, you can, but never more than 1 ravager. Because even 1 ravager will slow down our spire tech usually by a little bit.
I sometimes build and cancel the ravager just so it tanks a little bit of damage. Is that smart or is it not?
Yeah, you could do stuff like that, for sure. Just don't do it too much, you know, obviously to the point where your gas is kind of a bit too slow. So he's talking a lot while he's playing. After this game, since there's no opponent, we're just getting comfortable with each other. I'm okay with it, guys. But after this game, I'm going to be like, no speaking. I want you on 100% focus mode. If a question comes up, file it away. Say, ask it. You know, you can shout it out, but I'm not going to answer it. Basically, I'll write it down and we can talk about it after. Because these are all just distractions from our immediate focus in the present, and that's one of the most important things in StarCraft: is be focused on the present, stare at the present. So, sneaky 6 Roach into 2 base muted.
When do I build the 3rd queen?
Quite a bit earlier.
It, so
it's just kind of squeezed in. We don't have an exact set timing, but probably before the spire starts normally.
Okay, because I was building it at...
Yep.
Yeah?
If there's a Banshee or something, then yeah, we want to have that earlier. But that's cool. So you can see we're saving money a little bit early. We probably could have squeezed in a bunch more drones or roaches if we needed defense, depending on how the game's going. Sometimes you need to build roaches to stop a counterattack. But obviously now as that spire is finishing, it's lining up nicely.
How many map mods? 7?
It's your call. Minimum 5, maximum 8 or 9. As long as once you've built them, you don't add any more. And get that Evo chamber down immediately. Not Baneling Nest. There should be an Evo chamber. Because you're going for a big Roach Ravager timing afterwards.
You know why? I've got my hotkey set up in a way that allows me to immediately build Evo chambers by pressing B.
Right.
So, because I actually hedge block against protoss quite a lot of time.
Let's keep building drones. You need to get 1 gas on the 3rd, and that should probably be enough drones for the entire game, since your main and natural are fully saturated. Now with your muters, especially if they haven't been... Yeah?
What about the muter?
You don't want to show them until you have 5. If they haven't been spotted, your opponent doesn't know you're going muters, you always want to wait for at least 5 so they can one-shot SCVs when they go in. So just be wary of that. Unless obviously the other mutalisk is like a full minute behind. Always wait outside of vision, group up, and then once you've got 5 muters, you can go in and you can do way more damage as opposed to if you have 3 or 4 muters going in the first pack. So, little thing makes a huge difference. From here, it should just be non-stop Overlords and Roach Ravagers. So notice how close you are to your supply cap, and you just queued up 2 more Overlords. You're massing Roach Ravager on what is almost 3 base economy. You should be building 8 Overlords at a time. Like, you should just be like, let's never get supply build. Because Roach Ravager chews through your supply insanely fast. So it's always like a special scenario when you're going for a Roach Ravager timing where you build what seems like too many Overlords, and it's never too many. Like, there's actually just, yeah, never too many. And preferably we would have had +1 finishing a little bit earlier. And then even if Roach Speed's done before that, which is fine, the idea is obviously, you know, when we're ready, we'll make a whole bunch of Ravagers and just go. So if you're like, muters are going around and you're like, look, he's trying to secure his 3rd right now and he has just not that much defense, I think right now is good. That can be good, but look at your army. It's really not that scary. Obviously, you got to wait for the Ravagers before you show yourself. You should also have an Overseer with your army to spot the high ground in case your Mutalisks decide to harass somewhere else. Always, with any Roach Ravager timing, you've got to have an Overseer to spot siege tanks on the high ground. But you can see your army now suddenly looks scarier. And then like every more round of Roaches that comes in, it gets scarier and scarier. So it's this thing where just make sure you don't headbutt with like only 15 Roaches. Always wait for at least 20 Roaches on the minimum, right? And this ball you've got right there at the front, just to give you perspective, that's 24 plus 7. That's 31 Roaches. 32, 33 Roaches now as these extra Roaches come in. So just look at that ball and that kind of gives you an idea. Or of course you can look at your screen down the bottom once you got them all selected and you can go, oh yeah, full tab is 24. And then there's, you know, oh, there's another 12, 13, 14 drones on the next tab. Cool, cool, cool. That's like 36. Thinking about why this works. Obviously this works so well because you do a Roach pressure. And you're trying to hide those Roaches as well, right? So what you would normally do is use your slow Zerglings and your Queen to go out and try to intercept the Reaper, kill it, or at least shoo it away. And then your Roaches would have avoided it, that very first wave. So if that surprises them, that just does a lot of damage, keeps them occupied. And then they're very busy responding to that and dealing with that. And they're not scouting, they're not pressuring. Suddenly your Muters hit very, very early. Suddenly they're reeling from the Mutalisks. They're trying to build turrets, mines, marines, maybe even a Thor. The last thing they're thinking about is build lots of tanks and just defend, right? They're also thinking, my opponent keeps doing damage. I've got to get a 3rd. I've got to get a 3rd, which is the worst possible thing they would want to do against a Roach Ravager bust. Whereas realistically, they just want to sit behind their wall and make as many tanks as possible and wait, because Roach Ravager is really shit the longer the game goes. But because you're keeping them so busy and you're hitting with these different techs and you're forcing their minerals into things like missile turrets and widow mines, which are pretty bad versus Roach Ravager, they don't really do a lot. That's kind of the whole idea of this style, is you're throwing waves at them that require opposite responses to one extent or another. And because of that, the Terran basically just isn't preparing correctly for what you're throwing at them. And you're able to, surprise them and throw them off multiple times. So even if your first 6 Roaches don't do a lot of damage, it's just about forcing the response usually sets up those Muters to do well anyway.
I've got actually 3 small strategic questions because there might be stuff happening that forces me to branch off this build, right? You scouted Roach Warren. If the Terran sends his Reaper or suicides it in or even gets it out alive, anyhow, I'm not confident enough to be able to deny the Reaper Scout of the Roach Warren. If the Roach Warren gets scouted, do I cancel it and go for a standard speed for the Zerglings, pull off gas, and...
I would say just do the exact... I would say while you're practicing it, just do for the exact same build and kind of look at the meta. So if people are always diving with that first Reaper, just look at how you can how you can, you know, try to hide the vision and that sort of thing. But generally speaking, yeah, I would basically just say to yourself, you know what, I would let the Roach Warren finish. I wouldn't even cancel it, but I just wouldn't use it, or I'd only build like a single Roach or something, just to kind of show it to the Reaper to make it look like this Roach is coming out. And then I'd just go straight to 2-base muter. So I mean, you can come up with whichever plan you want. It is quite rare for me to encounter people diving through the main with that first Reaper, right? They'll come in a little bit later and try to scout it, like as the Roaches are starting up, often. But even in that scenario, you know, often it's a little bit hard for them to get in the back of the main and spot it if you've got your Zerglings and whatnot in position.
Your opponents are good. Mine are not. They might just... Yeah, because I've actually encountered them many times. They just YOLO it in, and yeah.
Yeah, just just go straight for your muters. You'll be fine in that scenario because they're like preparing for the Roaches, and then you just go for the muters, and it'll be fine. Just come up with a plan for that scenario, and there's 1,000 different things you can do in any scenario. So, you know, it's on you to just choose what you think is a good idea and just kind of map it out from there. And that's what's cool about these styles is they are a bit tricky. They're a little bit aggressive, a little bit momentum focused. So you want to use your opponent scouting something and overreacting, and you can base that off your own meta, right? So watch replays when people do that and scout the Roach Warren. How do they react? If they're really not reacting at all, just keep going for the Roach pressure as if nothing's happened. And that's you playing the meta, right? You're like, people really don't respond to this. They just don't respect it enough. I'm going to keep doing the exact same build and ignore scouting. And that's also just a good way to practice when you first start out anyway. Like, you should really iron out the build and get perfect with the dum-dum execution, right? The, like, zero decision making, Flintstones, bone on your head execution where you're just like, I just do the build. And that way it just allows you to not have to worry about, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Because that's where like indecision and we can get a little bit shitty on our execution because we're overthinking things. And there's complex strategic things that can go on there, which are best thought of outside of in a replay, right? So it's like, we can be like, oh fuck, should I do this? Try to file that away and be like, let's watch the replay and think about it after the game and just commit to the build. And you'd be surprised how well you can still do it if you're nice and confident with your waves, right?
Okay.
Let's see if we can find a practice partner out of this game, and we can hop in. So 6 Roaches try to sneak out. Obviously, we want to use the Lings, use Lings and Queen to zone Reaper. Now with those Roaches never commit into the main base of Terran. Okay, so if they like their depot's lowered on their main ramp, you're like, cool, let's get in the main. Don't do it. That's how you throw your Roaches away. Because 6 Roaches is not that scary, right? If they just surround you with SCVs, suddenly all your Roaches will die very quickly if they've got Hellions and stuff still alive. So if they've got, like, say, 3 Marines, 4 Hellions, that's really bad against 6 Roaches on its own, right? But if they then drill their SCVs through and surround you, all your Roaches will die and you'll kill very few units. So it's much more important to stop mining on the low ground, pick off whatever SCVs and any low ground depots we can, try to pick off the reactor on the depots in the wall, and we kind of force them to pull SCVs as well usually because they're worried about us kind of running in and killing their stuff. So it's very important to not overcommit with those Roaches or you just throw those units away. Ideally, we'll keep them alive. Ideally, we actually go home with the Roaches after a set amount of time. Now that's on you. I do that by game sense based on what I see from the opponent. I say, oh, he's going to have a Cyclone out in a sec, or he's going to have a tank out. Okay, Banshee's like going to be popping in a sec. I've already done a bunch of damage. Let's just go home. Sometimes I'll say, nah, it's worth staying here. I'm doing so much damage. Let's just stay here and let the Roaches die. But ideally, we actually go home with the Roaches after a set amount of time and use them to defend any counter and then obviously join our attack. Later on, they can be the veteran Roaches. They're like, dude, we've killed a few SCVs and Marines. We killed a few Hellions. We snuck past the Reaper, and they kind of like, they're like the veteran Roaches that egg on the rest of your Roaches on how to be good Roaches. And kill them.
I still got the 4 to 6 initial Zerglings at home and 2 Queens. But should the Terran decide to just drive by with their Hellions and, yeah, suicide them into my natural. Should I build extra roaches to defend against the Hellions?
Yeah. Try to build like just 2 or 3. Try to get away with as little as possible. This is where Overlord spread is really key, and this is something with like if you struggle with the Reaper always scouting, by the way, like especially if it's like, obviously if the first Reaper comes in, he can always do a circuit of your main base. Like you can't stop that, right? And maybe when you see the Reaper doing that, you're like, oh, I cancel the Roach Warren, and then I instantly rebuild it after he's done his little circuit. It delays my roaches 20 seconds, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't know it's coming. Like, you might decide that's the right response to that. But if they're coming in later, you should always have plenty of vision, right? Your overlords should be spread out front, that jump-in point, out front your natural, out front your third. So you should get a little bit of warning of these things ahead of time. And arguably, you could say, you know what, Hellion run by is a huge problem for me. It keeps, like, just fucking me. Well, if you think about it, what if we just already have our Roach Warren in our wall? All we need is another Evo Chamber and 2 Queens on most maps. Evo Chamber, Roach Warren, 2 Queens, that's full wall off on most maps. So that's like, oh, that just stops us from taking damage. So you could, by default, be like, oh, I put the Roach Warren in the wall. Now, obviously, that's probably only going to work with a different build. With this build, we're really trying to hide it. Seems really dumb to put the Roach Warren at the front of our natural that early, right? I didn't even think we'd have creep spread. So you could go double Evo and Queens. I'm not sure of the exact timing that the roaches come out. This is a new build for me as well, so I'm thinking about the time. Do you know the game timer when your roaches move out? I'd say it's probably about, what, 3:20?
Don't. I base it on supply, actually, basically. So I don't know the in-game timing.
Yeah, I think if they've gone gas first and they've built 4 Hellions as quickly as possible, and they just, like, avoid your roaches and dive in, you're probably going to have a little bit of a hard time. At the same time, they're going to have less at home, so we'll see how that plays out as we go. Let's write a note down and we'll figure that out. Melty's asking for any specific instructions. Awesome to have Melty offering to help us out here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, he's ready. You good to go?
Let's keep jumping into it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So in that last game, we were kind of chatting and stuff. Let's cut that out. Let's just like 100% laser focused, play your best, kick some ass. If you've got any questions, feel free to say it out loud, but try to just file it away and just focus on the moment. Yep. Try to focus on the game in front of you. I'll obviously answer any question in the document. So if you ask a question, I won't even speak up. I'm just going to be muted, but I'll write the answer down and we'll talk about it after the game. So for now, let's just get in our groove and see what happens. Good luck, have fun, man. All right. How are we doing, gang? Thanks for hanging out, people on the stream. Archon, thank you for the 22-month resub. You're feeling 22? Feeling 22 again. What's up, Gary Mighty with the 9-month resub? Hosoths with the tier 1 sub as well. Thank you so much for the support, gang. Also, while I was not live on the weekend, we had a Mizark with the tier 1 sub. Thanks, gang. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cool. So anyways, what were we asking about before, guys? What if the Hellions dived? So obviously that's like a very narrow window, narrow timing for them to identify. If we worry about this, maybe always build 2 extra roaches or something, you know, for defense. But like, we got to identify how much of a problem that actually is. The thing is, it's kind of scary for the Terran to even commit to the Hellion dive, because the Terran's going to be like, well, what if Lings are just flooding out behind these roaches? Obviously, the Terran's going to, if they sacrifice the Hellions, it's terrible for them. So that's why, you know, also dangerous for them to dive in, since we might be rallying mass speedling behind. So these are all like important things, right? It's just this idea of like, we can talk about what if Hellions dive in and we've only got 2 Queens and 4 slow Zerglings. And the thing is, like, you got to identify the percentage chance of how much of a problem this is, right? And what you'll find is if this happens in 3% of your games, it's not worth caring about. Game right? Resumed. If you strategize, like I often tell people to think about what could fuck you up, but don't at the same time, don't react to everything that could fuck you up in a game of StarCraft. The problem most people have is they think, oh, this would be hard for me to stop, or this would be hard for me to fight. Fuck, I need to do something else. And that's, or I need to massively be overly prepared for this thing. And what you've got to take into account, right? So the first level of understanding in StarCraft is identifying a big problem that could come up. The next one is actually estimating, well, how much of an actual problem is this? How much of a problem is this? It's a huge, it's a huge problem if it's happening every game. That's a 100% problem. Realistically, if it feels like it's happening every game, though, it's more of a 60% problem, right? It doesn't actually happen every game. And then there's a lot of things where it's such a narrow timing window. It's like, oh, those Hellions have to like dive in from this angle, yada yada, and you're like, oh shit, yeah. Whereas like often the Roaches will even like, oh my god, that's huge, Melty, T lost the Reaper. That's so bad for Melty. Okay, good. It was Roach Horn before Queens. That's good. So it should just be Roaches now. Roaches in the main, then Roaches in the natural. He should build one more in the main. Yeah, one more Roach, one more Roach. There we go, queued up one more in the main. It'll lag behind the pack, but whatevs. It's all good. So, he wants to go really fast lair. Is he gonna start that straight away? I wouldn't mind it starting straight away, even though it's like, your economy's kind of shit. It's actually totally okay to have a bit of a derpy economy in this scenario. Second gas. Why are we making a second gas? So we can make mutas. He's going to queue up a few drones first. No later than 330, guys. 330 is the latest you want that layer. Totally okay with him building a few more drones there. Come on, where's that layer? There we go. 334. Not too bad. But like, if we look at this, we can be like, oh, you could actually always get the layer 20 seconds faster with this build and like really rush your mutas. Cool. Oh, it's against 2-1-1. Oh, this is something I was wanting to... I was thinking about before the coaching day. I was like, ooh, you know what? I haven't been playing this against 2-1-1 at all. And I was thinking how you really want to make sure you have more potential ravager commitment against this. Potentially. But yeah, this is game. That's game. If they pull up ramp and don't fight, you either need to force a poking bit of damage with some ravages, or just pull home, or just yeah, deny core, just deny mining and stay on low ground. Oh, great micro. Where's the Spire though? The Spire is so late, guys. Yeah, his macro is not as on point as it could have been. That's okay. Just deny mining, stay on low ground, and then go home at like 4:45, I guess we would say, is when you want to leave with those Roaches, right? Because otherwise they're gonna hit you with, they're gonna like boost over you with their medevacs, beat you back to your own base, and then get you. What else? Prioritize Roach speed and more Roaches off 2-base saturation to defend the 2-1-1. Remember that the standard timing is 520. If you deny low ground mining and slow them down, maybe we delay the 2 medevacs to 5 minutes 35. If we trade and kill many Marines, he didn't build a Spore Crawler. The moment you see a Liberator, that you should always build a Spore Crawler, no matter what, guys. There is no reason ever to not. This is a habit you should always form as a player. Yeah. If we trade and kill many Marines, we can delay them till 6 minutes. So these are just some like estimates, right? I'm just making these estimates up. These aren't set timings. These aren't like things I've memorized off the top of my head. This is me just being like, yeah, I mean, this sounds about right. And I can adjust those if problems pop up, right? Everything in StarCraft is about adjusting over time and kind of learning to adapt to that stuff. So yeah. Someone was saying they never see Protoss coaching. Go check out my YouTube channel, actually. I've been putting up a fair bunch of coaching sessions over the years. If you just go through and search my YouTube channel for coaching, you'd be amazed how much Protoss coaching there is, and some of it might be older, and you might be like, oh, it's not from the last month, it won't apply to this meta. Always applies, dude. As long as it's Legacy of the Void, it applies to you. So, so get on it. Get on it. Even the stuff back when there was a Mothership core, still helpful. Still helpful. So this is like the absolute maximum number of drones you want to go to, guys. 63. Often I will have even less drones because I'm so eager to go push. Yeah. Remember, we should be building 10 overlords at a time, not 1 or 2. Otherwise, doing really, really well. It's like he just queued up 1 more overlord. Oh my god. Melty! Oh, he stopped unloading! He's gotta keep unloading! He's gotta keep unloading! Yeah, those mutas could have got massacred if he turned south there, I think, and kept unloading. That could have been bad for Mr. Action Jackson. As it is, though, Action Jackson's got this one in the bag. Supply blocked. You just aim it. Just gotta be real careful with those mutas. Sent a few workers from the main to the third. How many Ravagers we got? Only 4 here. With that much gas in the bank, this much money in the bank, should absolutely be higher. He should be sieging that wall down with vials. No reason not to. No, this is obviously good damage. It's a pretty nasty choke point. So how does he solve this problem? He could be biling that whole wall down without going in tank range. That's something he's failed to do so far. But the important thing is to not get over eager. It's actually better to just stay spread. There we go. Tank is finally going to fall. It's better to just stay spread than it is to force your way through a choke point. This is actually a hatch first into 6 Roach PG Source King, but yeah, same build. Essentially, it's the same build, just slightly different way of opening. It's hatch gas pool into 6 Roach, where you skip link speed into the 2 base meter, but plays out very similarly. He could, yeah, I think he's. So I think in this scenario, guys, where they're turtled up on 2 base and the tanks are in good positions, I think we want to come up with a rule. I made the same sort of awkward engagements the other day, so let me talk about this. Okay, Roach timing the sick wall on 2 base. Vile the wall down from out of range.
Mineral field depleted.
Keep building up your unit count, then hit in. Transition. So let's imagine we want to have a transition, guys. You could go second Evo, melee upgrades, Lingbane Muta. I think that's probably the simplest one to do. Alternately, you could go Infested Broodlord. And that can work very nicely also. Army! Action Jackson! Takes him down.
Yeah, in for the win!
Hells yeah. GG, well played, my man. Good shit.
No, there was a point in the game where if we wouldn't have done this coaching, I would have just completely stopped building roaches. And because I actually didn't expect this to work at all. after I've lost my first few ravages. Well, it didn't take really good care of them, but yeah, my reflex would have been stop the attack, tag up, because I was pretty much all in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had an epic supply lead, though. Definitely the attack wasn't perfect, and he had a very, very nice defensive setup. The command center and the wall especially, it was like, oh shit, this is a big chunky thing in the wall. It's hard to get past. And it's a map with a relatively narrow choke already. So I think in that scenario, we could have at the very least biled down the depots, but also we could have started biling down the command center from beforehand. When you first poked in, you only had 4 Ravagers, but you had a lot of gas in the bank, right? So try to make sure you go up to a higher Ravager count straight away when you're committing. And I think you could have biled down the command center and at least forced a crazy amount of repair or the command center to lift off before really committing in with the engage. And this is something where it's always a bit different. Sometimes the tanks are a little bit too far forward and you just dive in and you just land the biles. Most of the tanks are gone and it's fine, right? But his tanks were quite well positioned back. They were on his ramp and stuff to his main base. And it was really safe setup from him. So it was one of those ones where it was oh shit, okay, maybe we need to just pick away the wall. In some rare cases, you're even gonna say, you know what, I can't break this. And before the fight even starts, you're I'm gonna wait for him to move out to the third, and then I'll try to slow down the third, but I'm already gonna start my transition. And that is something, these are all advanced responses, right? I like what you said, because you're doing coaching, you're let's just commit to this and see what I can do. And that's what you should try and treat your ladder games as well. It's you're forcing yourself to play with a restriction. You're I will not go past this Roach Ravager timing. This has to win the game. And what it does, it'll force your games to be shorter, and it'll also force you to dig really deep and find ways to engage with this Roach Ravager that you might not otherwise think about. And you want to do that for your first however many games playing the build, right? And then once you're oh, okay, all my games are over in 10 minutes, right? None of them go past 10, 11 minutes like this game. Because I always try to force it. And obviously if that attack doesn't work and you've got no other tech or upgrades, you're pretty screwed. But it's good because it forces you to really practice that crazy hard. And that's awesome. That's really cool for us, because it just allows us to focus on that one thing. Once you've done that a bunch, you can start doing, oh, you know what? My opponent knows what I'm doing. He's got tanks turtled up. Let's just immediately transition. And there's 2 main transitions. One is just go into melee upgrades, second Evo chamber, play Lingbane Muta. The other one would be to go Infestors and Broodlord. So you just kind of get an Infestation, a Hive, Infestor Broodlord, add a bunch of Queens and try to just do a Roach Ravager, Queen, Broodlord, Infestor timing. Honestly, it just comes down to what you're most comfortable with. Lingbane Muta's more of a mid-game focused army. The Broodlord swap is obviously a little bit slower, but you're kind of teching to it rather quickly. Just comes down to what your preference is.
The base structure of the build is really nice, I think, because that's pretty much what I asked for. Something or a basic structure that I can build around of. So yeah, I think it's fun, because you could probably tell that I'm not used to microing roaches. I rarely use them in any matchup, because although I think it's cute, all it does, the micro on roaches is basically just pull back the weakened roach, and that's it. So I rarely use them. Yeah, I rarely use them, but I'll probably get better with practice. So yeah, thank you. I'll
no worries.
Get in some practice.
Yeah, well, we I'm just talking to Melty here, so I'm pointing out to him that the mistake he made that game. He was doing a 2-on-1, right? Which is an interesting build against this.
I could tell, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might be wrong on this, but I was actually worried about, because a 2-on-1 is on ladder 90%. Everyone was doing it.
Okay.
But right now I rarely play against it anymore, and I was actually worried because I focused on was catching the medivacs, because if they get snuck, if they could have snuck by my mutas, well, I do have roaches at home actually, because I've already started building them.
Yeah, because you're
That's
starting
fine
roach
also.
production. You're okay. It is interesting though, because like if he doesn't go down the ramp with his marines, right? He kind of bled into your roaches. You were able to do that fancy pulling back the roach micro, and it was
Yeah,
you know
it's very
so much efficiency. You were just like each roach had like 3 marines and an SCV kill to their name, and it was a really great start. But you're not always going to get that much damage, right? So sometimes they'll just stay on the high ground, and obviously we can't necessarily force our way up that ramp. If they're like in a good position behind the depots on the high ground, like you can't necessarily force your way in. It's up to you to judge based on the unit count. But if you just deny mining and stay on the low ground, at some point you do want to go home, right? Because you know Stim's going to be finishing. They're going to have 16 marines and a couple of medevacs. You don't want to stay on their side of the map forever. So maybe 4 minutes 45 would be a rough timer to go home. If we've just denied a bit of mining, maybe we killed a mule and an SCV on the low ground, but nothing else really. Normally a 2-on-1 hits us at 5 minutes 20. Maybe we've delayed it by 15 or 20 seconds, right? If we've killed a whole lot of marines and stuff like in that last game, the 2-on-1 never even got to move out, right? Because we killed so many marines and some SCVs. So like our mutas were at his base before Medevacs even got a chance to move out, right? So that was like the dream scenario. But obviously there's many cases in between, and it's going to be something you learn with experience as, oh, I did a ton of damage, don't need to worry about the 2-on-1. Other games, you're like, I did no damage, and I lost half my roaches for free. Shit. I actually need to start building more roaches and roach speed before I even queue up my mutalisks, because I just know otherwise the 2-on-1's going to kill me. Like, I'm going to be like, oh, cool, I've got 6 mutalisks popping against 16 marines with a stim, and I've got 3 roaches on the ground. Shit, you know, that's a way to lose the game very quickly. So there's always that like flexible adjusting of how much we can get away with, and that's something you'll learn and you'll get better at with time. For now, let's just go into it, and let's just play another game, feel a little bit more comfortable with this one. It already looked pretty good that last game. My only real piece of advice here is once you do get up to the 3 base kind of saturation, you could even be a little bit lower on drones. Remember that you can be a little bit under mineral saturation because your main starts mining out and you start transitioning workers. So you could be down at like 55, 57, 58 drones rather than the 63 drones which you've been aiming for. So don't be afraid to be a little bit lower on drones, and otherwise just remember to build tons of overlords so that we never get supply blocked. Because I still get supply blocked every time I do this build. You got supply blocked last game as well. It's something which you're always gonna have to remind yourself is just crazy numbers of overlords. Good luck, man. Let's smash it.
Game paused.
One thing, we're not almost out of time, but should I do my standard build now, or should I do the roach timing again?
I would say use the roach timing again, and let's like see it because Melty's much more prepared now, right? He kind of knows that's what we're working on. But it's your call. If you want to play just a standard game, we could absolutely do that. So take a second. Which would you rather do?
I think I should show you how bad my standard ZvT actually
Okay,
is.
let's look at your standard, and I will write you a whole big list of notes watching this game. I will cut you to pieces. I'll dissect it. And then after we're done with the coaching sesh, you can rewatch the replay, read the notes, and you can see all the little things that you can improve.
Yeah, well, and there are a few things I do that might seem stupid, but have worked out for me so far. So let's
No worries.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's smash it. All right. All right, get in your groove, man. Show me that beautiful standard play. Good luck, have fun. All right. Okay, guys. So we're about to see his self-proclaimed terrible standard play. I cannot wait. Oh, what's up?
Justice is delivered. In comes a paddle from the west. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a dick for a dick.
I don't coach very much off stream, Void Ray. Very rarely.
You see this drone? What this drone will do is bind the Reaper. I will not have to build the drone.
No need to explain. Just get super focused. Yeah. I call that Captain Dickhead. That's a very good tactic. I like that. Just be as annoying as possible. Just stay really focused. I use this as well. It's a good way to play. Good luck. He's Captain Dickheading, guys. He's Captain Dickheading. How great is that? Grabbin, thanks for the 17-month resub, my friend. Now, if your opponent goes barracks gas, which his opponent hasn't, his opponent's gone gas first, so it's perfect. If your opponent goes barracks gas, the problem is they're already planning to build a marine after the Reaper, so you don't actually keep that Reaper at home as long, but even delaying it by a few seconds can be pretty nice. Now, if Melty's really on point, Melty will bring an extra
pops out in
SCV.
roughly 2 minutes and 3 seconds. I've done this hundreds of times.
He knows, yeah. Yeah, no, but Melty's bringing an SCV, which is what you would do. That Reaper needs to go straight across the map. Yeah, good shit, good shit, good shit.
They actually replaced the SUV. That's rare.
Yeah, his Reaper was a little bit late. So this is because he doesn't know the difference that the Reaper's later with barracks gas. So with gas first, sorry. So he should know that. That Reaper was a few seconds later than normal, I would say, but yeah. Keep in mind, the gas first Reaper comes out 3 seconds later than Rack's gas Reaper. Other than that, Captain Dickhead plus delayed gas, really cute way of playing this, and I like it. This is cool, guys. Hey, Bartholomeus. Thanks for the 3-month resub, dude. Thanks again, guys. Why don't I do more coaching and stuff? Yeah, no, it's just not interesting for me, Void Ray Noob. I'm not a full-time coach. I don't want to be a full-time coach. I'm a professional commentator and streamer and caster, and I love StarCraft, but I enjoy a little bit of teaching. I would not mind teaching a ton more if it was all top pro gamers who had 100% dedication to the game. But as it is, I don't want to just be someone who's like, oh, I just want to do coaching all day so I can get more money, and then I would hate coaching. I would get bored so easily. So for me, it's a matter of, I know the quality will go down if I'm not enjoying the coaching, if I'm not enjoying it. So I would rather keep the quality at 100%. I have a certain amount of coaching that fits in with the 1,000 different things I do in my my career as a professional StarCrafter. You know, the amount of events I go out to, and the amount of content I put out on YouTube and Twitch every day. I have, throughout my career, at many points, worked the hours of several full-time jobs, and I try to keep it down to something which is sustainable. I'm 30 years old now, so I try to make sure I have a life where I'm not going to have all my hair turning white and falling out from stress by the time I'm 32. I'm already getting some white hairs and shit, so I'm trying to have a balanced lifestyle, which is very hard in esports, dude. But I'm the most experienced coach in StarCraft, and I've been coaching for many years, and I think I put out a good service, and it's something which is not meant to be this easily accessible thing for everyone. I teach thousands of people for free every day on my stream. I answer just about everyone's questions. I actually sometimes even get a little bit annoyed at my stream. I go, guys, why aren't people taking advantage of my knowledge more? I answer just about any question people ask. Why aren't people asking me more detailed questions?
Quite a bit.
And because I'm like, you know, when I was improving at the game, there weren't as many streams where you could just kind of ask as much advice, have as many people knowledge about all the different races and matchups. So sometimes I'm like, man, why aren't there people asking me more detailed questions? But no, I want to keep StarCraft fun for me and for my viewers. So that's what it's all about. So hopefully that explains all that. For now, this was a delayed Queen fast Baneling Nest response. His Overlord vision is pretty average, is one of the big problems that he's faced here. All these Overlords sitting in the main. I think he might have had an Overlord out front. I gotta rewind to check that. But he didn't give himself nearly as much warning. He definitely doesn't have an Overlord on the north side for no reason. So we're gonna write a few notes here. Number 1. Overlord vision needs to improve. So probably only need 1 Ovi on their side of the map. Next 2 Ovis out front. Natural and third. Important. See Hellions ahead of time. Etc.
Mutation complete.
Next 2 Ovis on edges for lids, drops, banshees, etc. So that's something which he didn't have. Banelings were slow this game. with your style, Banes are crucial. First Hellbats. He tries to bounce back with 2 extra hatcheries here. He's going for Lair. He did build a Spore in the main, which is nice. I don't think he scouted at all, though, after the initial early game. Didn't sacrifice an Overlord, right? Yeah, I don't think so. I think he snuck a Zergling in to see that. So anyways, that's definitely problematic. You should OV sacrifice at 4 minutes, and again later as soon as you have an Overseer. Spot if it's mech or bio. So he's gone these 2 bases. Obviously floating a bit of minerals here is not the worst thing in the world. He's gone melee, which I'm just, I don't know. Single Evo Ling Bane is always a little bit iffy. You can do it, but generally Carapace is more important versus bio in general. +1 melee is okay. Second Evo is now going down. Hydron's now going down. Should be droning your 3rd and 4th way earlier. Only droned once they finished in this game. Bad habit. Already behind in economy equals drone those bases up earlier. Not later. Bane speed is crucial. But generally he's just too far behind from before. Great play by Melty here. Smashed it. Smashed it. This was just poor defense against Hellbat timing. Summary. Poor Hellbat timing defense. Salt and Pepper's distinguished, says, is Corral bust? A lot of my friends are getting Salt and Pepper. It's true, man. I do find, though, my friends that already have white hair, significant amounts of it, are usually the ones who have gone through much more stressful overwork periods. So that it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. It is definitely part of, like, overwork and overstress. Yeah.
Our forces are under attack. Mutation.
Oh, I turned off the camera accidentally. I was like, why is he just staring at that? He pressed camera and he's not. Ooh, a lot of his army actually curved around the terrain here. They were up on that ramp, so it meant it took them too long to close. And I don't think that was a statistical possibility of winning that engagement. Maybe if he'd split to come from there, and also from down here. But that was, you know, that would have been just taken such a long time to flank around. And definitely not a easy situation to win, hey. And I like that Melty was very patient with securing the 3rd. Was like, nah, let's just focus on the aggression. Okay, now I'm doing the damage. Now let's move down there. I don't like this from Melty. A lot of Terrans do this. They leave their tanks and libs behind, and they throw their Marines away. I feel like if you just keep these units alive, like, that worked out, but I just don't like it when people split the Marines and it can get nasty. GG.
Aye.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we got to see too many of the key problems because that was just you not having the Banelings ready for the Hellbat timing. But there are a few things that lead into that though, which I guess we can kind of talk about and improve. So definitely it was just the Hellbats ruined you that game. Let's take a look here. So in the replay, so one thing, and this is super key, is your Overlord positioning. So you need to really work on that. And that is something which you can apply pretty much the same rules to all your matchups. Because you need to see where Adepts are coming from. You need to see where Oracles are coming from. You need to see where Hellions are coming from. You need to see where Banshees, Libs are coming from. Otherwise, we can just get ruined by harassment. But even Hellbat's morphing, we were getting way too slow warning of when that was happening because we didn't have Overlord vision. So something we see here is we are very slow to spread creep and to build our queen count. Now that's acceptable if you're more reliant on the Zerglings. And there's even players in GM who play this way. Pro gamers kind of scoff at this style because if the Terran's like super innovation level with their Hellions, they're just never going to let the Lings connect with them, and they're going to abuse the fact that you're low on queens. Whereas if you watch very high-level Zergs, they just get lots of queens out early because the queens can go head-to-head with the Hellions, right? And then the Hellions can only outmaneuver the queens by running past them, and then having a small number of Lings to stop them doing that, and that's kind of how it works, right? The Lings are the net that stop them running past, and the queens are the fishing hook or the anchor. They're the big solid thing that goes out and actually fights the Hellions, right? Now, with your style, you're playing a different one with a fast Baneling Nest, fast melee. You're more reliant on Zerglings. Now, one problem is, even at 4 minutes 30, when there's, there could be 6 Hellions darting about, we don't have any Zerglings. So that was a huge mistake, and you should definitely have an exact set time of, I've always got to have, 14 Zerglings ready, say. Because you couldn't even morph the Banelings here, which was unfortunate. I also think we were slow to put back on gas. If I go back to 3 minutes 30, let's go take a look. When did we put... What timing do you normally put back on gas?
When I'm fully saturated on 3 bases on minerals.
2 bases, you mean?
I built an extra hatch in my main. So
no,
I'm
talking about your main, your very first gas, guys, not extra gases. Like just putting the workers back in your very first gas.
I know. I'm putting them back when I've got 3 bases of fully saturated minerals.
Well, this game you did it at 3 minutes 30 though, 3 minutes 40. So
I did actually. Oh,
yeah.
I must have been force of habit. I don't know. Usually I drone up. Well, I get cucked by the Hellbat timing, which I was blatantly unaware of.
yeah.
If I scout the Hellion timing, I put on gas earlier. Do not upgrade my my melee, and
And you use the gas for Banelings.
so I do have sufficient gas for Banelings.
Right.
My usual style is if it's not a Hellbat Medivac timing, I actually drone up as quickly as I can to 3 base mineral saturation, get an extra hatchery in my main, so I can overwhelm with Zerglings and have lots of run by squads. And
Yeah,
it's not working out, as you can tell.
Yeah, no, I mean, just the fact that, like, you're relying so hard on Banelings to defend Hellbats, but you have to cancel an upgrade as part of your standard response to Hellbats, it's not like it's technically the worst thing in the world, but, like, it's awkward, it requires extra actions, it's a bit of a weird build. So, yeah, I think, honestly, you're just making your opening so much harder for yourself than it needs to be. Like, if you just built more queens and then went back to doing all your normal stuff, that would be great. Because you're not really looking for any huge aggressive advantages with this opening. Like, you don't have any way of getting massively ahead other than getting a good economy, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
having good worker count and a solid build-up is probably the best way to make sure your ZvT gets better with standard gameplay, right? Outside of our Roach aggression. So I would honestly just say, just get used to building more queens, get your overlords in the correct positions every game, as like just every single game they get in position. Always put back on gas at 3 minutes 30. Essentially just a rule of 1 gas build. And it's kind of similar in that it is, have you seen my rule of 1 gas write-up ever?
I think I did.
I'm going to link it to you anyway. It's like similar to you, where it's if you can get away with getting 4 or 5 hatcheries up really fast and a crazy amount of minerals, you do it. And it's basically the goal of the build is to do exactly what you're doing with that. The difference is you're mining gas off that 1 gas geyser the whole time. So you can afford upgrades and you can afford Banelings if you need, but not just that. Since you're so mineral focused with your build, it makes sense to defend with minerals rather than Banelings. It makes sense to just build more queens by default, right? So I think, so I've just linked it in your document. So that's the rule of 1 gas. And if you're not confident with queen defense, I think queen defense is the way to go, especially because BCs are so popular right now. I don't know if you've encountered them a lot, but I know a lot of people on the ladder are. If you're not confident with queen defense, you can do a Baneling version. Yeah. So having lots of queens, you can do a faster Baneling nest if it makes you more comfortable. But mass queen production and queens on a... Do you put your defensive or your creep queens on a hotkey?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you do that and stick with that. If you've already got that set up, that's great. Set hotkey and they can defend. So Yeah, I think honestly, just having more queens would make your life a lot easier with this opening. And getting that third mineral line saturated like reliably early would be so big. After the opening, like you were just too far behind. You technically could have still won the game. You needed to kind of commit 90% of your units to counter-attacking and, be expanding to the edges of the map. And when he runs in to kill a base, you just run the drones away because you've got 2 more hatcheries on the edges and you're never actually trying to defend your territory. You're just backstabbing constantly. Super hard to pull off. It's like, well, technically, this is how you come back in this scenario. He moves out, you backstab with everything and run in because the depot's down, and then he runs into a base, but you've already moved your drones elsewhere. And if he tries to push into your natural, you've got a bunch of banelings there with bane speed, and they roll into his marines while he's distracted by you counter-attacking in 2 places. Let's focus on not getting into this shitty position in the first place, rather than talking through that crazy position, which is very, very hard to make the comeback. So yeah, I think honestly, just having a bit of a solid opening would really help you out. I mean, one thing I want to highlight as well is just like, I think it was 4 minutes 40. It was like a really crisp Hellbat timing. Melty actually morphed Hellbats at 4:30. If we just had like 10 seconds warning of that, you would have had 2 extra queens that would have joined up. Instead, you lost 2 queens, and then you would have been able to join up with your banelings and engage with all those queens and the banelings just before the hatch goes down, and you might have actually been able to hang on. And that would have been crazy. So even with your current build, if we just had the Overlord positioning, that one change makes this game so much better for you, because you would have kept your 3rd base alive.
Well, yeah, what can I say? I'll try to practice every part of it, and we'll see how far that's gonna get me.
Yeah, man.
But,
I mean, have fun with the Roach build anyway, because that's going to be a much more controlling style.
Yeah, I think I'll play around with the Roach build.
It's a fun one. I've got a video as well for a little bit of homework, talking about really old Pig Daily episode. It's an hour long, so you might want to skim through it. But oh shit, I accidentally closed your coaching document. Anyway, basically this one, I'll link it in chat as well. It's where I announce myself swapping to being an Overwatch player. Very serious announcement. And then I talk about what is a different version of the same build from early Legacy of the Void, where you go with 3 roaches to create a big overreaction off a pool. So you go pool hatch gas, you run across with 3 roaches, the Terran freaks the hell out, and then you just go into very fast 2-base meter and a big Roach Ravager timing. And I go through a few replays kind of looking at that, again, of me versus Iaguz and stuff. And I'm just talking about this whole concept of how, hey, look, this is a great build to beat someone who's better than you. Because the whole thing is designed to just be like, hey, look, I've got roaches. Bam, Muta's flying. And they're like, what the fuck? Who's got Mutas after pressuring with roaches? Because it's such an uneconomic build, right? Like, you are sacrificing a lot of economy if you're going roaches this early and still teching to some of the fastest Mutas. And then you go back into a really fast, relatively low economy Roach Ravager all-in timing. And it's this very surprising, opposite unit sets. They require opposite reactions. It talks a lot there as well in that video about kind of how the Widow Mines aren't great against the Roach Ravager. Roach Ravager actually has the range advantage. If they don't have siege tanks, right, your Roach Ravager can beat Bio so hard because the Bio has to come close to you because of the mixture of Biles plus Ravager range. You get to pick the concave, and whenever they set up a concave, you can kind of poke in, drop Biles, pull back, poke in, pull back, and you can kind of do this thing where if they really want to just force a pitched battle, they kind of have to stutter step into your concave, which is obviously very bad for the Bio. So if they ever run out of siege tanks, the Terran player is just so screwed. Like, their army is so terrible against Roach Ravager if they don't have siege tanks. And understanding that whole interaction really helps you take this to the extreme. But awesome, man. So I got a jet. I think it was a good sesh. Just shoot me a message when you want to set up the next one, yeah?
I think we already scheduled, right?
Oh yeah, was it like next week or something?
No, I don't think it was next week. I think it was
Let me check. Might have been 2 weeks away. Or 3?
3rd of February.
3rd of Feb? Yep, same time, 3rd of Feb. Awesome. Yep, Sunday 9 o'clock for you. Awesome, man.
Yeah, really
All
looking
right.
forward to it. And
Me too.
Thank you very much. It's been really fun.
Cheers,
I
man.
think the second game wasn't really fun to watch it probably. But
Well, we got to see a lot of burnt Zerg. I liked the 3rd and 4th. You fought well, so we saw some good stuff, and I really liked the Roach Muta game. That was going really well.
Thanks, mate. Okay.
Awesome sauce. All right, have a good day, dude. I'll catch you later.
Bye.
See you later.